We made it to the recap episode, and since you guys like to put me under a microscope in the comments, we're going to grade your takes using the exact same scale I ranked the songs with. Starting off with this one right here from Anything Goes TV 8435. He says, "The effort you put into this is very impressive. Please do the Rolling Stones next." This one's a tier 10. We are definitely doing the greatest rock and roll band of all time, but it's going to have to wait. They just dropped that new album, Foreign Tongues, earlier this month, which is great, but I'm not touching a definitive ranking until they are officially done making new music. I'm not doing a part 2 because Mick Jagger decided to drop another track from the nursing home. Next up, we got Mr. Mintz. Honestly, this guy might be the MVP of the entire comment section this season. I'm officially making him the Season 1 fact checker because he actually cares enough to bring the receipts instead of just acting like an insufferable know-it-all like half the internet. Fever is not a cover, just FYI. If you were thinking of the Garth Brooks version, his is the cover. Get a Grip came out in 1993, Fresh Horses in 1995, and the original song was written by Steven Tyler and Joe Perry. Now this comment belongs in tier 7. It's respectable. I'm not making it a tier 10 because he is calling me out here. Guilty as charged. For some reason, my brain scrambled the timeline, and I had Garth releasing it first. But he's definitely right. The Garth version came out 2 years later, so Aerosmith is the original. Then Mr. Mintz hits me with a double whammy on the deep cuts. He says She's on Fire is from Done with Mirrors, and certainly does feature Joe and Brad. And regardless of what song you're talking about, Rick has gone on record saying that he actually played little to no guitar on Rock in a Hard Place. I have heard conflicting reports on whether he did at all, but the consensus does seem to be that he came in very late in the recording. I think the parts you're referring to here are all played by Jimmy. This is a tier 8 comment. It's a certified banger. Now this one actually pisses me off because I knew that and I still managed to get my notes crossed while I was recording it. Yes, She's on Fire is definitely on the Done with Mirrors album, and yes, Joe and Brad played on it. As for Rockin' a Hard Place, Rick Dufay came in late, meaning Jimmy Crespo had already laid down the heavy lifting. The confusion comes from Rick getting the liner note credit for the album, even though he was mostly just brought in for the live tour. Most YouTubers get defensive and block people the second they get called out, but the reason I'm putting these up front is simple. None of us are walking encyclopedias, and I want an open room where we actually get the music history right. We aren't experts, but all of us together can get pretty damn close. Moving on. This one is from Philip David Lee, and it's a tier 10. He says, "I don't know anyone that would make a list like this. I won't even contradict you. Good job." Respect, Philip. I take pride in this series because I wanted to cover everything, even the obscure demos that nobody cares about. Most creators just give you a top 10 or a lazy top 100 if you're lucky. And worse, they puss out because they're terrified of hurting your feelings or losing a subscriber. I'm broke, and I'll probably still be broke 10 years from now, but at least I'll have my dignity. Seeing a comment like that actually means a lot. Shout out to you, Philip. Next, Drew Snyderman checking in. Have you ever been to an Aerosmith show, or are these just ranked off of the studio recordings? You're slagging on some concert staples that are absolutely iconic killer tunes, such as Combination and Draw the Line. This is a tier 6 comment. My guy is definitely sitting front row at every Aerosmith reunion tour. To answer your question, no. I've never seen them live. I'd love to. These rankings are strictly for the studio tracks, because live energy can turn a mid-song into an absolute banger, let's be honest. The only exception I made was for live exclusive covers with no studio counterpart. I should have made that clear in the intro, so that's on me. Now, we can't have a recap without addressing the graphic designers in the room here. Looking at you, Christopher Murray, 1862. Sweet video, but the use of AI slop is off-putting. That's an average comment. Tier 5. My favorite backhanded compliment. Thanks for recognizing my mad skills, Christopher. Look, I know a lot of you hate the AI images, and I've started swapping in more real pics of the band. But you gotta understand the reality. YouTube makes it damn near impossible to use actual footage without getting instantly nuked by some copyright strikes. If I had my way about it, you'd get full vintage concert bootlegs playing the whole way through. And right behind him, John P5Y5R keeps it simple. What is this AI garbage? Tier 1. Fair enough. Honestly, if I was watching a video and saw this much AI, that is word for word what I would type too. So no hard feelings. Finally, we got Perry Go Round. He says, I know I said I would not keep watching the rest, but I can't help it. When an Aerosmith video shows in my feed, I have to click. I am happier with this one because they are all great songs and you seem to recognize it. Smiley face. That's a tier 10 comment. Come on, bro. First off, Perry Go Round is a badass handle. Second, glad you kept coming back for more. You probably didn't agree with half my takes. I get it. But at least you got to watch every single Aerosmith track ever recorded get put under the microscope in one single video. Yes, I tore them a new asshole a few times during this series, but they're one of the greats for a reason. Look, Aerosmith has genuinely been one of my favorite bands since day one. You probably wouldn't know it by how hard I've been writing them through this entire series, but it's true. And after putting all 191 songs under the microscope, I gotta say, they have way more great listenable tracks than I initially thought they did. But for a Hall of Fame lock, they also have a surprising amount of filler. Now look, some of that isn't entirely on them. The record execs back in the day wanted albums cranked out like candy on an assembly line, which naturally left room for junk. But still, they could have tightened the belt a little bit more. One major thing I took away from this whole deep dive, underrated guys like Jimmy Crespo, Rick Dufay, and Ray Tabano don't get nearly enough credit for keeping the engine running when things got ugly. At the end of the day, Aerosmith is easily in my top 10 bands of all time, and they sure as hell aren't 10. They set the gold standard for what a deep dive series on this channel looks like. Now, we gotta see if the next band can step up to the plate and take the crown. Keep watching to find out who's next. Alright. So here's how we're going to compare every band we rank on this channel moving forward. If you play Madden, you know how they rate NFL players. Every single attribute broken down so you can't just hide behind a couple of highlight reels. Well, we're doing that exact same thing to the bands on this channel. And to do so, we're going to be using the 10 attribute ratings that define a band. The first rating we're going to rate the bands by is their catalog depth. The filler versus killer rating, basically. How much of their catalog is actually listenable. Next rating is consistency/prime output. Basically, how good was their peak run. The third rating is musicianship and craft. This is their technical skills. Fourth rating, cultural and genre impact. This is the influence factor. Did they influence other bands? Did they start their own cultural movement? Stuff like that. Their popularity, basically. The fifth rating is replay value. Is this song embarrassing to play in 2026? Or if it comes on, would people let it run and not be ashamed? The sixth rating, aura. Does it have the it factor? The seventh rating is band chemistry/locker room culture. This is the ego survival rate. Were these guys clashing? Or did they get along like a well-oiled machine? The eighth rating we're going to be looking at is grit, resiliency, and longevity. This is the playing through pain stat. Did they last a long time even through hardships? Or did they ultimately fall apart? The ninth rating is legends, myths, chaos, and lore. The rock and roll history books. And the 10th rating is authenticity. Did they sell out or did they not? We're building a definitive power rankings database from the ground up, adding a brand new band to the competition every single season like a real pro sports league. No blind nostalgia, no bias, just cold, hard attributes to see who actually belongs in the Hall of Fame. We're starting our inaugural player card right here with Aerosmith. Let's pull up the database. Alright, their first rating, catalog depth, we're going to give them a 75. Look, having 81 tracks land in tier 5 or higher is impressive. But everything from number 82 to number 191 is a mountain of filler and disappointments. Their consistency rating comes in at a 91. They were elite across multiple decades, even if they did lean into commercial safety and had some rough patches in the 70s. The third rating, musicianship and craft, coming in at a 92. When that lineup is locked in, they are a well-oiled machine. Now, cultural and genre impact, that's a 95. America's premier rock band. Their blueprint is stamped all over modern rock. You can't deny that. Replay value comes in at an 88. Put on their heavy hitters in 2026 and nobody is changing the station. You let everyone vibe. Aura, this one is a 97. Their pure, unadulterated swagger. Steven Tyler and Joe Perry are basically the blueprint for being cool. Band chemistry, this one's a 73. Now this is where their overall takes a hit. A volatile, ego-driven pressure cooker. They survived, but the locker room culture was a mess. They didn't call them the Toxic Twins for nothing. Alright, grit, resiliency, and longevity, 95. Surviving the 70s burnouts, getting clean, and touring for over 50 years makes them the ultimate survivors. Legends, myths, and lore rating, 93. Massive historical weight and rock and roll chaos, sitting just a notch below the absolute anarchy of the Stones or Guns N' Roses. Authenticity, 75. They started raw and hell-bent on defining a new era, but those glossy, commercially refined 90s power ballads take a massive hit on the zero sellout index. When you run the complete 10-pillar average across the board, Aerosmith pulls an official 87 overall. An 87 overall puts them right where they belong as an absolute heavyweight of rock history. They've got the aura, the hits, and the legendary lore, but catalog bloat, volatile chemistry, and commercial compromise keep them out of the 90-plus club. Aerosmith set the bar for the database. Now let's take it a step further and break down each of the musician player cards. You see, we aren't just making a power rankings for each band we cover, we're creating a power ranking for each instrument as well as we go through the seasons. That's right, vocals, drums, lead guitar, rhythm guitar, bass, and even piano all have their own power rankings. The catch is, they will be grouped with their main instrument to prevent someone like Steven Tyler from being in the piano and vocal rankings. Oh, and each instrument has a different set of 5 attributes, so get ready. We're going to start with the lead guitars. Dick Wagner first. Look at the numbers. 90 technical proficiency, 85 phrasing. The guy was a lethal weapon on Get Back and Train Kept a Rollin'. Total studio specialist. He came in, did the heavy lifting when the band was fracturing, laid down iconic solos, and didn't need his name in the lights to prove he was the smartest guy in the room. A rock solid 77 overall. Next up, Steve Hunter. This is Wagner's partner in crime. But look at that 95 phrasing and melody. That's elite. When you listen to the opening of Aerosmith's version of Train Kept a Rollin', that smooth, hypnotic blues intro, that's all Hunter. He didn't just play notes, he structured a vibe that saved the tracks. 79 overall, and honestly, commands respect every time he picks up an SG. Jimmy Crespo. Talk about stepping into a den of lions. When Joe Perry walked, Crespo took the heat. 82 phrasing, 75 improv. He wasn't trying to copy Perry. He kept his head down, locked into the rhythm, and co-wrote almost the entire Rock in a Hard Place album, even though he doesn't get the credit for it. He kept the ship afloat when the wheels were coming off. Underrated, and that's why he comes in at a 79 overall. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Joe Perry, the man himself. 97 tone, 96 riff architecture. Absolute top tier numbers. Perry doesn't just play lead guitar, he dictates the entire blueprint of Aerosmith. The riffs on Walk This Way and Sweet Emotion are permanent monuments in rock history. 94 overall, and he earned every single digit. Now let's take a look at how our rhythm guitarist did, starting with Rick Dufay. Look at the 82 endurance. When Brad Whitford stepped away, Dufay stepped up and stabilized the engine room. He played with a raw, punk-infused energy that gave the early 80s lineup a meaner, grittier edge. He did his job, protected the pocket, and kept the momentum moving. A gritty 79. And now for the founding member on the rhythm guitar, Mr. Ray Tabano. Crazy Raymond. 72 timing, 78 endurance. He was there at the absolute beginning of the band, laying down the foundation before the stadium lights even turned on. He didn't stay for the multi-platinum runs, but you don't get the early Aerosmith dirt without Tabano's DNA. Respect the history, 74 overall. Ironically, you might think that's disrespectful. And our top rhythm guitar guy, Brad Whitford, the unsung powerhouse. Look at that 97 harmonic support and 95 riff creativity. Everyone talks about Perry, but Whitford is the secret weapon that makes the entire machine lethal. He balances the chaos with absolute surgical precision. You don't get that wall of sound without Whitford holding the line. He's tied with Perry at a dominant 94. Now we're moving on to the bass guitars. Tom Hamilton. 89 groove, 92 tone. The second you hear that opening bass line on Sweet Emotion, you know exactly who is running the game. He provides the heavy, thumping heartbeat that lets the guitars fly. No flash, no nonsense. He's just pure executive foundation. And 85 overall, he's a solid anchor. And on drums, we have Mr. Joey Kramer, the powerhouse behind the kit. 93 power and a 93 endurance. Kramer doesn't just hit the drums, he punishes them. I mean, listen to the guy. He's driving, relentless, and he gave Aerosmith its signature hard rock swing for 5 decades. Steady, reliable, and absolutely elite when it comes to holding a stadium-sized pocket. That's why he gets an 89 overall. And finally, the front man, Steven Tyler. 98 range and 98 stage presence. These are top-tier ratings. There is no Aerosmith without the screech, the swagger, and the absolute vocal dominance of Tyler. He controls the room the second he steps on stage. A masterclass in fronting a rock band. 95 overall, and the undisputed leader of the Aerosmith pack. Now that we've looked at the players behind the instruments, let's look at the actual tape. Here's how every single track breaks down tier by tier. In tier 1, the trash tier, they had just 2 songs, totaling 1.05% of their entire discography. Tier 2, the lemon tier, they had 12 songs end up here. That's 6.28%. Tier 3, this is the cheap material. A whopping 36 songs, sitting at an 18.85% chunk of their entire discography. Tier 4, the cutting corners tier. 60 songs. That's 31.41%. And this is why I couldn't rate the band higher than an 87. Because they have a total of 96 songs just in the cutting corners and the cheap materials. That's over 50% of their songs falling in tier 3 and 4. Tier 5, the average tier, they had 40 songs. That takes up a massive 20.94%. Now this is getting a little bit better. The core middle ground of the discography. Tier 6, the legit songs, 9 songs here. That's 4.71%. Tier 7, the respectable tier, they landed 7 songs. That's 3.66%. Tier 8, certified bangers, another 8 songs, 4.19%. Tier 9, the heavy hitters. Most bands will be lucky if they have a few songs here. Aerosmith has 8. That brings them to 4.19% of their songs land in heavy hitter territory. And finally, the Tier 10 Hall of Fame tracks. These tracks are damn near perfect. 9 songs. That's 4.71% of their catalog. And when you roll the numbers together to see how the band actually performed where it mattered, 81 total songs landed in Tier 5 or above. That means exactly 42.41% of their entire discography holds the line as average or better. This is how the band stacks up all time. Here are your season awards. Most Valuable Player, Steven Tyler. The ultimate franchise quarterback. Operating at a 95 overall, Tyler's unmatched range, vocal dominance, and 98 rated stage presence carried the entire organization from opening kickoff to the final whistle. Offensive Player of the Year award, we're going to give that to Joe Perry, the master architect of the offense. At a 94 overall, with a staggering 96 riff architecture rating and a 97 tone rating, Perry didn't just move the chains, he minted the immortal hooks that define the entire playbook. Our Defensive Player of the Year is going to go to Tom Hamilton, the anchor of the trenches. Operating at an 85 overall, Hamilton locked down the low end with a 92 tone and presence, anchoring the entire rhythm defense and ensuring the foundation never cracked. Our most underrated Player of the Year, Brad Whitford, the ultimate overlooked superstar. While the headlines chased the flash, Whitford quietly operated at an elite 94 overall, powered by a massive 97 harmonic support, single-handedly holding the entire system together without ever missing an assignment. And our 6th man of the year is going to go to Jimmy Crespo. He was there, during their hardest times, and his live performances really helped keep the chaos to a minimum. And now we're going to go to the vocal power rankings so you can look at what the all-time leaderboards look like. Next up, we have the lead guitar power rankings. Now it's time for the rhythm guitar power rankings. And here's the drum rankings. Season 1 is officially in the books. We graded the band, ranked the music, and laid out the cold hard numbers across 191 tracks. If you think this is the end, you haven't been paying attention. We're just getting started. Drop the notebooks and get on board, because this league is expanding. If you thought Aerosmith was a bloodbath, you aren't ready for Season 2. We're bringing in the heavyweights. That's right, we're diving headfirst into one of the founding fathers of heavy metal. Can they outperform Aerosmith, or are they an overrated stable of the past? Find out next season. If you don't want to miss Season 2, you know what to do. Peace.